No, I'm David Oakes.
I'm Robert Heath. Welcome to sci-fiuniverse.com.
.com.
That was terrible, wasn't it?
Bonjour, on vient pour la fête.
C'est dans la cabane du gardien. Vous devez suivre le chemin sur 800 mètres à travers bois.
Bonjour, je suis Justin, le frère de Félix. Je veux savoir ce qui s'est passé. On jouait à Action ou Vérité.
So, the first question is to you, Robert. So how did you get the script from Matthew I'm not sure how you say it.
McGuckin.
Okay. Oh god.
Script came through Corona, the producers Rupert and Richard at Corona Pictures. They were talking to me about another film that they wanted to do a remake of a film that my previous film called Sus. And so we were having meetings about that, and then they found out about my love of horror movies, and they had this script that they wanted to get off the ground, and I read it and responded to it and liked it, and then it all kind of happened quite quickly, really, just because it was something that I'd read lots of scripts, lots of horror film scripts that my agent had given me over the years, and I've never really found one that I responded to like this one. So, and I thought it was interesting, and the narrative was clever, so, and a bit different from other horror films, so that's why I decided to do it.
So did you make any changes to it when you got it, or to sort of insert your ideas into it?
The script, yeah, there's the stuff like the grenade was one of my ideas. There's certain kind of the rake in the head and the finger being bitten off, that's all kind of my stuff.
You're a sick, twisted man.
I am quite sick. So I did it was really about the ending of the film is kind of the ending that I kind of fought for, because there was an alternate ending. It kind of went on. There was another ending after that. The father comes into the picture and she gets tied up and tortured again, and he survives, and I
I still might survive.
Yeah.
One.
Well, that's the thing. It's all kind of left up in the air. Maybe he did survive.
I've been trying to push a sequel where we just do a completely different genre switch. So we turn it into a sort of, everyone's got some kind of ailment, like, so there's the disfigurement with the acid, and people have lost limbs because of being stabbed and gangrenous infections and whatever. But I think there should be Justin going back to the army and coping with his blatant homophobia and his scarred face, and he confronts his true emotional feelings. And Rupert came up with the title, what was it?
Dare to be true.
Dare to be true. And it's a sort of coming of age homosexual story.
Or a college comedy.
It'd be brilliant though, wouldn't it? I love the idea of doing a series of films, but each one in a different genre.
Yeah.
The only ones we could think of were the Three Colour trilogy, kind of, and Alien 1 and
that's
Aliens
right, yeah.
2.
Yeah.
And then
Something
3 is
like
kind of
that.
different again. They're massively different genre switches.
Yeah.
With the thriller to action to horror
Could
to
that
horror
be
to thriller.
something that you would actually take on? Do a sequel?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I think it was the ramblings of David, really, more than anything.
I ramble quite a lot. Yeah.
It's just you had so much fun playing, that's right.
Yeah.
No, but
Just trying to manufacture more work for myself.
we've talked various storylines about how it could continue. So I don't think it's going to be like a huge blockbuster or anything. But so there probably won't be a sequel. But there are storylines that are there if anyone decides to pick it up again.
So could you talk to us about the material that you used and what was your influence on picking it?
Yeah, so it was a low budget film. We shot on Red camera, Red MX. It's all shot 4K. It was we had a young director of photography called James Friend, who's kind of up and coming and done lots of low budget movies over the last few years, and I think he did a great job. I think it looks. I always wanted it to look kind of quite Hollywoody, have that kind of lighting to make it. It's a very English film, but I think that hopefully it's got kind of enough of a nod to kind of a kind of glossy Hollywood kind of horror film. So I kind of always wanted that look. So that's why we chose to shoot it, in the way we did. And I'd shot my previous film on a Red camera as well, so I think they give good results. So I think that 35mm is kind of sadly kind of on its last legs.
It
Looking out
certainly
the
is
door.
for smaller budget things. I think it's a shame. I mean, pretty much everything I've ever shot has been digital, which is a shame. I think, yeah, I did a commercial for Romanian television on 16mm, but that was
Yeah,
that
my
was
first
about
short
it.
films were on 16mm,
Uh,
but everything, all my feature stuff has been digital, and I just think that now, you know, I shot a commercial on film not long ago, and the amount of process we had to transfer it from film to tape anyway, and then grade it from the tape. So it kind of, you know, it's sort of almost redundant. You get the same results by shooting on digital. I think with the post-production tools, you can put grain in it if you want. It gives you the same results. I'm not a kind of film snob.
You have 2 camera rates or 1?
We had one camera for majority of the shoot. There was a couple of days where we had 2 cameras, because sometimes there'd be a camera on a crane. You know, so we had a few days when there was 2 cameras, but majority was 1 camera.
did we had a 5D as well? And like,
Yeah, we did have 1-for-1
I can't
scene
remember
which
why now.
got cut out of the film. When the body rig thing.
yeah.
Alors Eleanor lui a demandé avec quelle fille il aimerait coucher. Et Félix a désigné Gemma. Et Chris ne l'a pas très bien pris. Et il l'a frappé. Il a tapé Félix devant tout le monde. C'était plutôt lourd, non?
Je crois que cette soirée manque un peu de sexe. Vous croyez pas, les gars? J'ai une meilleure idée. Action ou vérité?
If you look at the characters now, they're not, even the victims are not really nice people. So do you like this sort of in-between area, grey area between them? Is it sort of why you liked the film, or is it?
Yeah, it was kind of. Yeah, I think I like the fact that it's. When I first read it, I was struggling with, you know, classic movie narrative of like which person out of these people is the hero? Who am I supposed to be rooting for? And the obvious one is Gemma out of all of them, because she's the kind of only truly innocent kind of person whose kind of motives for doing anything are kind of genuine and true. So, but then I kind of dropped that idea of kind of following that kind of single narrative, and made it more of an ensemble, you know, and concentrated on all the characters equally, because they're all, you know, so it's about what happened, you know, it's about the truth of the situation rather than, you know, and who's telling the truth and who's lying and who's concealing things. So I like that fact. And I think that helps the narrative, because you never really know where you are with these characters. You don't know who's doing what and who's to trust and who's doing what. So I personally like that.
The ensemble feel was great. There were sort of days when everyone was seated in their chairs and tied down, and I'm just sort of walking around them like half game show host, half compere, like sort of orchestrating this whole thing. And I could just sit back and watch them, and you'd sort of set them off on a sort of on an agenda of blame. And then you just sort of wander off and watch what they were doing, and it was great. I mean, I was the only person who's allowed to walk about, which was great. You could do more funny faces. It's to sit back and to watch these people who are potentially real people but in an awkward situation, and to watch them all sort of struggle and fight for their own survival just with their words. It's kind of fun.
It was, yeah. There was a kind of element of almost theatre about it, you know, the fact that we got these. We had a week of rehearsals, which was nice to kind of get the cast together and talk about it. And,
I think that,
you know,
kind of shows
we
with
had a
the five main cast. They bonded properly as if a group of university friends.
Yeah.
And you believe that when they're at the party and when they're then holding each other to account, you believe that there's a genuine sort of heritage of past to their build-up, their make-up.
Yeah. I think that's, again, it all just reinforces the narrative and not knowing what to believe and who to believe, which I think is good, which is the main strength of the story.
When you choose the location, like the idea of a cabin in the woods, you obviously think Evil Dead. So were you conscious of that idea or not?
Yeah, it was, you know, again, there's lots of, you know, I'm a huge fan of horror movies, and there was like lots of influences, and I wanted to kind of reference those things because I wanted it to have that kind of Hollywood feel, but you know, have a slightly different narrative. I always kind of saw it as a slightly sort of, you know, a horror film written by Agatha Christie or something, you know. So it's like I put all my kind of movie references in there, and things like, and when we were looking for the cabin, you know, we looked at various places, and there were barns and kind of, and when we found this place, it was like, this is, you know, this is perfect, it's great. And we had a brilliant production designer who, it was a scout hut that was like for Boy Scouts,
Yeah.
and he kind of did it up and made it look like a proper cabin in the woods.
I remember seeing it for the first time, sort of walking along that muddy drive, and then it just sort of, because it really was just there alone. It was really eerie.
Yeah, and it's great. You know, it's lit by moonlight, and there's kind of, we use lots of
Yeah.
smoke and stuff. It's like, you know, all those things are definite, like fulfilling wish fulfillment for me.
Well, it was the screening last night. As soon as the log cabin came out and the moon was in the smoke, everyone was like, "Whee!" Like you know what's coming. Like we're not pulling any punches with that. It's like, here we go. This is where the nasty stuff happens.
Well, you sort of are pulling something new because the ending is something completely different.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
is that sort of a real the strong point of the movie? Because we're not don't worry.
I don't think it's predictable. I think that's what's so
Yeah,
exciting about
exactly.
it. It drives a different journey to what you'd expect.
Yeah, I'd, you know, hopefully there's no one's going to walk, or no one's going to enter the film and say, oh, I know what's going to happen, I know how this is going to end. Or if they do say that, then hopefully it won't be what they expect.
Yeah.
Now there's a question for you, Davey, because you always tend to play, I'm sorry to say, the assholes.
Yeah.
So are those sort of characters drop on your lap, or do you really choose them? What's happening here?
I've kind of got into, not a rut, because a rut suggests that I'm not enjoying it immensely. I get to do all the stuff that I don't get to do in reality. Yeah, I don't think anyone would believe for a second that I torture teenagers. Yeah, I don't. I'm starting to choose them, actually. Originally, it came along that people were just offering me these fun, morally suspect characters, and now I'm kind of hungry for it. If something comes along and he's kind of a predictable, sort of stereotypical nice guy, I kind of go, but what else? Like,
But again, it's something to look with Catholic Church for the third time. I mean,
yeah, I don't know what that's about.
why?
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way. Yeah, there's a strong religious thing. I think. I think what's interesting is that these things that we deem to be bad, moral constructs normally dictated by a religious practice. The whole Catholic thing is, I guess, because that's the background of sort of Western filmmaking. I guess the moral code of conduct. I would imagine.
If you look at Italian cinema, it's kind of
Yeah.
pretty much all about that.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean, there are lots of interesting. I mean, a lot of my previous work, whether it's about a cathedral or about the Vatican or about this one, there's themes of like suicide and heaven and hell going through. It's great fun to know that you can play with that convention. I've said it before and I'll say it again. It's easy to make someone like you if you're a nice guy, but if you're doing something horrible and you deserve to be damned to hell, and you can get someone to like that character, then that's a lot more intriguing. I'm not trying to promote people doing bad things. I'm trying to make people think about why it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
Like why is torturing teenagers bad if they're all a bunch of idiots?
I actually really like the idea that hopefully I think I would have achieved something if you make the audience feel a bit of sympathy towards his character.
One last question, because they've got their usual question they like to ask for the website. It's, what was your cinematographic shock, which brought you actually to cinema, made you love cinema, and maybe why?
Mine's very, very vivid in my mind. The thing that one of my earliest memories was seeing King Kong when I was a kid, and it was the most fantastic, amazing thing that I'd ever seen. You know, the 1933 version. And also the most tragic thing I've ever seen. You know, when he died at the end, I was like inconsolable. I cried for like days. I thought it was the most moving, painful experience, and it stuck with you know, any sort of medium that can make you feel that much. And that's kind of where my love of cinema started. It was a very kind of clear memory, and then I've been hooked ever since, really. So that would be mine. King Kong would be. I'm not sure if that is that kind of
That's
thing
exactly
that you're looking
what
for.
I
Yeah.
want. David?
I don't know. I was brought up on a weird diet of James Bond films and Carry On films, so it means I've got a massive misogynist streak, I think, probably. In terms of a big shock, I'm a massive fan of Jurassic Park, but I don't think that was it. But it's kind of like the King Kong, it's that animal thing, but it's different. I don't know. The film has just always been there. I think, as a kid, film gave me nightmares. Like, it really did. I had a babysitter called Daniel Young, who was my mum's friend's son, and he used to come round and he'd bring whatever film he'd just got. So he brought round Cujo and Big Trouble in Little China and Sleepwalkers, like lots of Stephen King adaptations. And I'd watch them like as a, I don't know, 7-8-year-old boy and have the worst nightmares in the world. Yeah. Nightmare on Elm Street. It screwed me up for years. Like, I couldn't sleep. And the idea that you can affect something and someone so strongly at such a young age, it's just brilliant, isn't it?
It does. Yeah.
And it is that
ingrained.
strong guttural reaction, and which is why I think we all come back to horror films now in a weird way, because it's the most that base amount of fear and terror just goes through our bloodstream so quickly and makes us.
It's brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, I think if you don't dream about a film, then the film kind of hasn't done its job. Like, it gets into your head. So yeah, just the nightmare potential of films, I guess, is what made me start. There you go.
Je veux une confession. Et nous allons jouer jusqu'à ce que j'en ai une.
Alors c'est ça. C'est pour ça qu'on est là.
Action ou vérité? Action. 2 récipients. L'un contient de l'eau, l'autre de l'acide. Tu dois choisir entre les deux. Je n'ai pas envie de jouer, tu sais.
Sale enfoiré!
Il faut te décider, Luc. Il est temps de choisir ton camp. Tu veux que je tire sur lui? Je t'en supplie.
Il va nous tuer. Et quand on sera mort, ce sera ton tour.
Justin! Arrête-moi, je t'en supplie!
Assez parlé. On reprend la partie.
Action.